Baker, any police, fire, or medic?
Police, I've been shot. I'm 8 months pregnant.
Okay, ma'am, you're 8 months pregnant. You've been shot. You're at Wessex Square.
Did you see the person that shot you? She replied in distress. I'm 8 months pregnant. Stop, breathe, and pay rapid attention. The story you're about to watch will bamboozle you if you're not concentrating. Time stood still as the world held its breath. The moment of truth had arrived, and the choices he made will forever alter the course of his journey. The unknown loomed before him, shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Every fiber of his being tingled with a sense of fear and wonder. The question that should echo within your mind is, who is this guy, and what might have possibly gone wrong? He was worth $3.7 million in person, but only God knows why he fumbled a deal like that so bad. He actually thought he got away with it and that he wouldn't be linked to any involvement concerning her death, but before she died, she spilled what she thought of the situation, and he ended up being the prime suspect. The expression on his face showed he was glad about the news. After all, it was good news. But, in his heart, he wanted the current events overturned. But why would good news taste sour? It had already happened, and it happened so fast that all he needed to do was to think quickly and end his tragedy before it was born into the world. But for sure, an idea that is impulsive can only bear negative results and put you in trouble. How does a celebrated athlete, a man with wealth, fame, and a promising career, descend into such darkness? What drove him to turn on the woman carrying his child? And what secrets did Rae Carruth try so desperately to keep buried? Today's case in our true crime series is a story of betrayal, greed, and the ultimate fall from grace. A story where trust was shattered, lives were destroyed, and justice fought to prevail. Brace yourself. The truth will leave you questioning everything you think you know about the people we idolize. Born Ray Lamar Wiggins in Sacramento, California on January 20th, 1974, Rae Carruth grew up in a neighborhood shadowed by crime and struggle. His father was absent, and his mother, Rae Carruth, worked tirelessly to provide for him. Despite these challenges, Ray found an outlet in football, where his speed and agility made him a standout player. Ray's high school years at Valley High were a testament to his raw talent. He excelled on the field, earning accolades and catching the attention of college scouts. By the time he graduated, Ray was a local hero, poised for greatness. In 1993, Ray accepted a scholarship to the University of Colorado, where he quickly became a star wide receiver. His performance earned him all-conference honors and recognition as an All-American. Coaches and teammates admired his work ethic and quiet determination. It seemed nothing could stand in the way of his dreams. In 1997, Ray's hard work paid off when he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers as the 27th overall pick. His $3.7 million contract made him one of the most promising rookies in the NFL. Fans adored him, and his family saw his success as a chance for stability and redemption. But while Ray's career flourished, his personal life told a different story. Carruth's personal life was marked by a pattern of reckless behavior and poor decision-making. He had persuaded another woman to have an abortion, and his finances were a tangled web of lavish spending and poor investments. Cherica Adams was a bright and compassionate woman born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. Raised by her mother, Sandra Adams, Cherica grew up with a deep sense of resilience and a passion for helping others. She worked in real estate, and at times as an exotic dancer to support herself in her dreams of building a family. Ray and Cherica first met at a Charlotte pool party in June 1998, where they hit it off immediately. Cherica even introduced Carruth to her father. However, after a few encounters, they lost touch, as both were involved with other people. Cherica briefly relocated to Atlanta to support her half-brother's music career before returning to Charlotte. The two reconnected in November 1998 at a strip club, where Cherica worked and Carruth was attending a birthday party for a teammate. This chance encounter rekindled their romance, and they began a casual, consensual relationship. Carruth even gifted Cherica a cell phone, which was a significant gesture at the time. By April 1999, Cherica discovered she was pregnant. Having previously undergone an abortion, she was determined to keep this baby. However, Carruth, who already had a child he didn't see, asked Cherica to consider an abortion. She refused, fueled by her desire for a family unit and a sense of permanence with Carruth. Cherica confided in her friends that she wanted Carruth in her life permanently. Her friend Valerie Brooks recalled that Cherica really wanted to make it with Rae. She wanted a family unit. On Mother's Day 1999, Cherica shared the news of her pregnancy with her mother, Sandra, over breakfast at a pancake house in Charlotte. Rae Carruth's life was marked by a sense of uncertainty as the birth of his child with Cherica approached. Despite his outward appearance of calmness, Carruth was struggling to come to terms with the impending arrival of his child. He already had a child from a previous relationship for whom he paid $3,000 a month in child support. To Rae, Cherica's pregnancy was a financial and reputational threat. The man adored by fans and teammates was now harboring a dark and desperate plan. As the days went by, Carruth's demeanor remained cheerful, and he even accompanied Cherica to her birthing classes and medical checkups. However, beneath the surface, he was concocting a sinister plan. Carruth had made up his mind that Cherica needed to lose the baby, and he was willing to go to great lengths to ensure that happened. On November 16, 1999, Rae invited Cherica to a movie date. They watched The Bone Collector, a thriller that, in hindsight, mirrored the events to come. After the movie, they left in separate cars, with Rae leading the way. As they drove down a quiet road, Rae slowed his car. Cherica, following close behind, did the same. Out of the shadows, another car pulled up beside Cherica's vehicle. Shots rang out, piercing the night in Cherica's body. Despite her injuries, Cherica's bravery in that moment was extraordinary. She managed to call 911, giving operators critical details about what had happened. "I was following my baby's daddy, Rae Carruth, the football player. He slowed down, and they pulled up beside me and did this." Cherica was rushed to the hospital where doctors performed an emergency C-section to save her baby. Her son, Chancellor Lee Adams, was born but suffered severe brain damage due to oxygen deprivation. Cherica fought for her life in the hospital, but after weeks of struggle, she succumbed to her injuries on December 14, 1999. At first glance, Rae Carruth's demeanor in the wake of the attack seemed typical of a grieving partner. He made public appearances, attended vigils, and expressed concern for Cherica and their unborn child. But to investigators, something didn't sit right. His actions seemed too rehearsed, his words too measured. And then there was Cherica's 911 call, a haunting statement that placed him at the heart of the crime. The case quickly became a race against time. Investigators knew they needed to act fast as Cherica's condition worsened in the hospital. She had named Rae as a key figure, but proving his involvement required irrefutable evidence. Detectives began piecing together the events of that fateful night, uncovering a chilling conspiracy. One of the first breakthroughs came from Rae's phone records. Investigators discovered multiple calls between Rae and Van Brett Watkins, a man with a known history of violence. Watkins was no stranger to law enforcement. His reputation as a hitman had been whispered about in the darker corners of Charlotte. The timing of their calls, especially on the night of the shooting, raised red flags. The records revealed a disturbing pattern. In the weeks leading up to the attack, Rae and Watkins had communicated frequently. The calls increased in urgency just days before the crime, painting a picture of meticulous planning. Watkins would later admit that Rae had offered him $5,000 to carry out the hit, a price placed on the life of Cherica and her unborn child. As detectives delved deeper, they uncovered testimonies that supported the growing case against Rae. Friends and acquaintances described him as a man increasingly agitated by Cherica's pregnancy. Some recalled conversations where Rae expressed his frustration about child support, his fear of financial ruin, and his desperation to avoid scandal. Then came the chilling accounts from those close to Watkins. They recounted how he had bragged about the job he was hired to do, describing the plan in unsettling detail. According to these witnesses, Rae had orchestrated every aspect of the attack, from the ambush on the dark road to the getaway plan. At the crime scene, forensic evidence told its own story. Ballistic analysis confirmed that the shots fired into Cherica's car matched a firearm linked to Watkins. The trajectory of the bullets indicated a calculated ambush, with no room for error. Investigators also examined Cherica's car. The vehicle bore the marks of a coordinated attack, shots fired with precision, intended to leave no survivors. What struck detectives most was how the ambush had been executed in complete silence. No witnesses had come forward. No neighbors reported hearing the gunshots. It was a crime carried out with chilling efficiency. Another key piece of evidence emerged from Rae's own surveillance system, or rather, the absence of it. Investigators found that the memory card from the camera at Rae's home had been removed shortly after the attack. This wasn't the work of random criminals. It was the deliberate action of someone trying to cover their tracks. Nearby surveillance footage from businesses along the route provided additional clues. Cameras captured Rae's vehicle and the car used by Watkins trailing closely behind. These images created a timeline that contradicted Rae's claims of innocence. The evidence against Rae began to pile up, but the final break came when Van Brett Watkins himself was brought in for questioning. Initially defiant, Watkins eventually cracked under the pressure. His confession was a bombshell. Watkins described how Rae had approached him weeks earlier with the proposal. Rae wanted Cherica out of his life, and he wanted it done discreetly. Watkins admitted to firing the shots that night, following Rae's instructions to slow his car and create the perfect setup for the ambush. But Watkins's confession went deeper. He revealed Rae's cold, calculated demeanor throughout their dealings. Rae had been clear. The child was never supposed to survive. For Rae, this wasn't just about Cherica. It was about erasing what he saw as a threat to his lifestyle and reputation. As investigators closed in, Rae began to panic. On the surface, he continued to play the part of the concerned partner. But behind the scenes, he was unraveling. When the pressure became too much, Rae fled. On December 15, 1999, authorities found him in the trunk of a car parked outside a Tennessee motel. Inside the trunk were cash, candy bars, and bottles of urine, a pitiful attempt to evade capture. The once proud NFL player, who had been celebrated for his speed on the field, was now a fugitive brought to justice. As investigators pieced together Rae's involvement, Cherica's health deteriorated. Her family, led by her mother Sandra Adams, remained by her side. Despite her injuries, Cherica's strength shone through in her final days. Her 911 call had set the wheels of justice in motion, and her bravery ensured that the truth would be uncovered. On December 14, 1999, Cherica succumbed to her injuries. Her death transformed the case from attempted murder to a full homicide investigation. For her family and the community, it was a devastating loss. But her courage in naming Rae as her attacker became a defining moment in the fight for justice. The trial of Rae Carruth was more than just a courtroom drama. It was a national spectacle. Cameras flashed as Rae, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, was escorted into the courtroom, his head bowed and his once proud demeanor replaced with an air of defeat. For the fans who once cheered him on, it was almost unrecognizable, the fall of a man who once stood at the pinnacle of fame and fortune. The case wasn't just about justice for Cherica Adams. It became a symbol of something larger: the abuse of power, the dangers of unchecked privilege, and the devastating consequences of greed. The courtroom became the battleground where Rae's carefully constructed lies unraveled, piece by piece. Prosecutor Gentry Caudill opened with a statement that silenced the room. This was not a spur-of-the-moment act. This was a calculated, premeditated plan to erase Cherica Adams and the life she carried. Caudill painted a chilling portrait of Rae Carruth as the mastermind behind a murder-for-hire plot, driven by his desperation to avoid paying child support. Through a combination of phone records, eyewitness accounts, and Van Brett Watkins' testimony, the prosecution meticulously pieced together the sequence of events that led to Cherica's death. Watkins, the triggerman, took the stand in a dramatic twist. His testimony was as damning as it was detailed. He described how Rae had approached him weeks before the crime, offering $5,000 to take care of the problem. Watkins recounted Rae's cold demeanor and his chilling instructions to leave no survivors, including the unborn child. His words were blunt, devoid of remorse. He wanted her gone, period. The prosecution also leaned heavily on the 911 call, Cherica's final act of bravery. Her voice, quivering but resolute, echoed through the courtroom. It wasn't just a piece of evidence. It was her testimony from beyond the grave. Rae's defense team, led by high-profile attorney David Rudolph, attempted to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative. They painted Watkins as an unreliable witness, a career criminal looking for a plea deal. The defense argued that Watkins had acted independently, fueled by his own violent tendencies, and claimed that Rae had no knowledge of the plot. Rae himself remained stoic throughout the trial, occasionally whispering to his lawyers but never taking the stand. It was a calculated move, one that left many questioning whether he had any remorse at all. But the most poignant moments came from Cherica's loved ones. Her mother, Sandra Adams, took the stand and spoke with a grace that moved the courtroom to tears. She recounted Cherica's dreams, her kindness, and her excitement about becoming a mother. Holding back tears, Sandra said, "Cherica fought for her son's life even when her own was slipping away. She was stronger than any of us could ever imagine." Sandra's testimony wasn't just a plea for justice. It was a tribute to her daughter's courage and a reminder of the human cost of Rae's actions. The trial lasted several weeks, each day bringing new revelations that painted Rae in a darker light. The jury deliberated for hours, and when they returned, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Rae Carruth was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, shooting into an occupied vehicle, and using an instrument to destroy an unborn child. However, the jury acquitted him of first-degree murder, sparing him the possibility of the death penalty. The sentence, nearly 19 years in prison. Van Brett Watkins, who had pulled the trigger, received a far harsher punishment. His confession earned him a minimum of 40 years behind bars. But even Watkins' lengthy sentence couldn't erase the pain Rae's betrayal had caused. Outside the courtroom, reactions were mixed. For many, the verdict felt incomplete. How could a man who had orchestrated such a horrific crime avoid a life sentence? But for Sandra, it was enough. She had fought for Cherica's voice to be heard, and now the world knew the truth. In interviews following the trial, Sandra emphasized forgiveness. "I don't hate Rae. Hate doesn't heal. What heals is love, and that's what I'll give Chancellor." Her words resonated, offering a stark contrast to the darkness of Rae's actions. Rae's time behind bars was marked by isolation. Once a rising star in the NFL, he now spent his days as inmate. Sandra Adams dedicated her life to caring for Chancellor. Despite his disabilities, he thrived under her unwavering love. He learned to walk, talk, and even graduated high school in 2021. Sandra's faith and resilience turned a story of heartbreak into one of hope. Rae Carruth was released from prison in 2018. Though he expressed interest in reconnecting with Chancellor, Sandra maintained that any meeting would be on her terms. Her focus remained on giving Chancellor the life Cherica would have wanted for him. Rae Carruth's and Cherica Adams' story is a chilling reminder of how far greed and selfishness can drive a person. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the people we idolize and the systems that enable their actions. But this story is also about courage and resilience. Cherica's bravery in her final moments ensured her son would survive. Sandra's unwavering strength turned tragedy into triumph, proving that love and faith can overcome even the darkest of circumstances. As true crime fans, let's not just consume these stories, let's learn from them. Share these stories to raise awareness and prevent future tragedies. If this story moved you, subscribe to our channel for more stories that uncover the truths behind the headlines. Together, we can honor the victims by striving for a safer, more compassionate world. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking justice.